With a clean shop and all of my supplies in tow, it's time to get started on this project. Our building season in South Dakota is so short, and I need to fit this build in between other projects for the show. This one has a hard deadline for a ribbon cutting in Arkansas. It was hard enough to unload by myself. That's why I figured my back might appreciate Clark's help moving it into the shop.
Yep. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, I'm just gonna take a little pressure off it and you just push it my way. Okay, stand by. Can you balance it?
Yep.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Okay. So the basic idea for this bench is I want to use as many C-130 parts as I possibly can, including some stuff that came off site, as well as things that have been given to the training facility that have been abused and used and that are junk now. So we pulled some stuff out of what was going to scrap, but we can reclaim it into this bench. So this piece, this is a Type 5 airdrop pallet. This is going to be the base of our bench. This is the part you actually sit on, or the support for what you sit on. The average seat is anywhere between 15 and 18 inches wide. So a 24-inch bench is a little deep for what we want to do here. So what I'm thinking is that we're going to bring that piece, the back of the bench is going to be just in front of these D-rings. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring this back of this to sit like that. Sort of the backrest. It's going to be very tall. It's the section of a flap. So I'm looking at doing a 7-foot piece of a flap off of a C-130 as our backrest. So it'll actually stick up quite high off of this, like to there. So it's very dramatic, very tall, but obviously very, very obvious that it's an aircraft flap. So the part that is next, I know what length this all needs to be because I have a stock length of 101 inches here. I need to cut the flap down. Of course, it's 30 feet long right now, so I need to cut out the section I need. And then I can bring that into the shop and start mocking it up. So I'll tip it, I'll clamp it, I'll prop it up. And I really just want to get a visual and see how I feel about the flap itself. So that's the next step for us. So one of the things, or part of the world you guys never get to see, is sort of the maddening amount of footage that isn't worthy to make it on a show or a YouTube video or anything like that. So to shoot one of our shows, you'll film 10 times the footage for the time that ends up on TV. So you'll be 50, 60 hours of footage to come up with 43 minutes of TV. So 60 times the footage, which is crazy. And yeah, but it's things like this. So the poor cameraman stands here in the heat with us as I fuddle around with sawhorses and things like that. And don't worry, we won't include all this either, so you don't have to watch it. But that's all part of the process. What we need to do is I need to cut this flap down to length. I'm going to rough cut the one end down there, which I know I need, and then we'll measure it back here, and we're going to end up cutting it right about here as well. And the reason I'm doing that is I want these two brackets centered on my bench. They're just sort of big prominent pieces that make it look like a flap. We're going to use this side as the back of the bench. It's more interesting visually. And on the back side, you'll just see the big sort of flap, the back, the flat part of the flap, which is what you would see on the underside of the wing. So anyway, we're going to get this marked out with our little flange wizard and get it marked and get the pliers fired up and cut a flap in half. This is the center. Sometimes math's hard. 3 feet 6 inches. Puts me a little farther over on this rib. Do you know where they paint the tips of propellers white? So the gray doesn't slide off. It's funnier if you know what a propeller looks like, but. So this thing's called a wizard wrap. It's basically a flexible marking tool to pipe wrap. So if you ever needed to go around a pipe, measure it, but it comes with all these super cool cheat sheets. So inside diameter, outside diameter, pipe size, the actual pipe OD, degrees, all the things. But if you ever have to mark something curved, use one of these. We have a large one and a small one. If you ever want to cheat, use a 2-inch wide tie-down strap. You just need something that's rigid enough that when you pull it tight, it makes a straight line. But that's the cheater way to do it. So drawing on the paint. Whoosh. Sharpie it is. So airplanes are a funny thing. So there's boneyards, there's entire airplane boneyards that the airplane, if it's not flight worthy or airworthy anymore, they go to these places. But they keep them because let's say you need this spare piece. You need this roller or this bracket assembly off a flap off of a C-130, whatever model, and they don't scrap the planes like they do cars. Like when a car's junk, they might take out some of the pieces and parts, but they just crush the car and go on. Airplanes are not like that because you can get, one gauge just because the plane can't fly anymore. Maybe the airframe got too stressed and cracked or bent and it's not airworthy, but that doesn't mean the landing gear assembly isn't good or all the gauges aren't good or the electronics or the avionics or the seats or the whatever. So getting parts like this is hard. You can pay for them, a premium for them, but this flap section actually was damaged, which is why it was in the boneyard where we got it. So we got it for a real reasonable price. So we're going to use 7 feet of almost 30 plus feet of flap section, but we'll find something else to do with the rest. I'm trying to decide if I cut it with the Plaz or I cut it with the grinder. It's really thin. The plasma cutter makes more sparks, but the challenge is when this comes down to a point on this side, it has enough power that'll cut through both layers. I think I might try a test with the grinder. It's way louder and dirtier, but can't tell this. Clark, feel how light that is. Wow. That's nuts.
Cardboard.
So crazy. All right, ready, boss?
Yeah.
That's man glitter. Did I mention our building season is short? Well, so is the camera operator's timeline. I bid Clark a farewell to go film a rodeo, and he put me in charge of documenting the process. So on the show, we talk a lot about not having blueprints, and this is not a made-up thing. Even though it drives production crazy, it drives my crew crazy. I don't like blueprints. I don't like plans. I don't even like the calendar app on my phone. The challenge with that is it would be easier to have blueprints, but I do take my time. I want to be methodical about the cuts, the angles, the pieces that I use, because these are such specialty parts. I can't just go out and pick up another piece of a flap. I can't just go out and pick up another platform. So it takes time. There's a lot of head scratching, a lot of standing there drinking a cold root beer, trying to make sure my angles are right, trying to make sure it feels right, trying to make sure it looks right, but it still has the spirit of what I have in my head, the blueprint in my mind, if you will, and that way I'm able to create these things the way I see them. I don't know if this is working or not. I don't know why this thing stopped recording, so. Oh Oh, camera equipment. So much fun. Okay, so we're 17 and a half that way. This little dude, color there, but I think I might do an experiment on a little section of flap so I can see if I can take paint stripper or something like that and clean it up and maybe repaint it. But the floor of the bench is actually going to get some Owens Corning decking. So I don't want people to put their butt directly on that aluminum pallet. It'd be too hot in the sunshine. But we'll put this decking on there that'll extend past, and that'll be a nice save for the butt.